Um, Thank you. Two esteemed organizations or entities in Ottawa, Art Engine and Apartment 613, got together a couple of years ago to create a critical blogging residency, whereby someone would be selected to reflect on the local arts and culture scene a little more in depth, a little more long form. The previous critical blogging resident was Megan Smith, who is now the director of Nuit Blanche. Currently, the critical blogger is our next speaker, and we're very happy to have her, Melody McKiver.
Bonjour, Melody McKiver and Dishnakas, Bishkakong, went to Goji with Tigwinning, Minwa, Ottawa, and Dunjaba, Makwana Dodem. My name is Melody McKiver. My traditional community is from Laxal First Nation in northwestern Ontario, but I was raised here in Ottawa. And I'm one of the co-founders of Niigaan in Conversation, which is an organization which is really designed to bring together people to discuss Indigenous issues, because a really major part of our motivation was this past winter's Idle No More movement. And we've all been working within the Indigenous community prior to that, but it was really a catalyst moment for us, seeing the amount of people that want to be discussing these issues and weren't finding an issue or finding a forum to do so. So here's our most recent event just this past Sunday, with our speakers and organizers celebrating afterwards. And I deliberately introduced myself in Anishinaabe because I really want to draw attention to us being on unceded Algonquin territory here in Ottawa, and reminding of the relations that have taken place to create Canada. And here is one of our partnerships with Kairos, and we've been partnering with Gallery 101 as well, which is a wonderful exhibition held through the Asanapka Festival over the summer. So that's Jason Berg's artwork in the background, a wonderful Métis Cree artist. And this is the discussion happening after the blanket exercise, which is designed by Kairos to introduce a history of colonization. Here is John Borrows, one of our speakers that we had at our June event, talking with people in the audience after the forum, and he's holding a wampum belt recreation in his hand, which is a historical record, and it's a great honor to carry one of these. And here's our audience, which we've come together to hear the presentations. And what we really encourage is placing people in dialogue. So being here tonight with the rapid fire format is kind of a departure from that norms of how we typically organize. One of the most important events we've coordinated was here, the Honor the Apology Rally, which was held in response nationwide across in response to the revelations that during in the post-World War period, Canada was holding nutritional experiments in residential schools. And currently, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission is ongoing right now in Vancouver, and it's a nationwide event, and a lot of people are really concerned that the nation isn't paying attention to what's happening. So we're really trying to continue to draw attention to a more critical history of what Canada. And here we met in front of the Aboriginal Affairs building, and you can see us bringing messages and posters into the building to meet with Aboriginal Affairs workers and make sure that our messages are heard, because following that, here we are going inside. The records were continued to be locked down, and the federal government has continued to not fully cooperate with the release of remaining documents in its archives to the Truth and Reconciliation workers. And now the time is ticking, because the commission's mandate is over within the next year. This is the only picture I have of my great-grandparents. And for us, it's been very personal, just my story reflected upon many parts of the country, because we don't have access to these historical documents. And this is what process of Canadian colonization has done, where Here is the first record I found of my grandparents, my grandmother, my great aunt, and my great uncle. This is their admission to Cecilia Jeffrey Indian Residential School in 1952, which was held at the time of the nutritional experiments in Kenora. The other Kenora school, St. Anne's, also had that. So here is a class photo of the senior grades of Cecilia Jeffrey in the mid-1950s. And you can see the school uniforms. And it's very much a mixed history, and what the Truth and Reconciliation Commission has really been focused on honoring the survivors and bringing forward these people who are children then when they're taken from their families, and documenting the legacy that these schools created and what happened to them, and honoring and preserving their stories so that we can learn and reflect. And what of concern is that these children that you see here, there's as many Indigenous children across the country right now, even more so, that are placed into foster care than there were at the peak of this system. And these are all children that were taken from their homes at such young ages, and the same thing is still happening where many First Nations communities do not have high schools, do not have access to the education. Ottawa, their education, they reached notoriety during Teresa Spence's hunger strike, but prior to that, they were protesting because their schools were so polluted that they had to close it down, and the kids were going to schools in portables. And here is drawing back to the Truth and Reconciliation and access to documents at a national event. This was a photo I found. My great uncle, Harvey Bunting, is in this photo. We still don't know which of these boys he is. And reflecting this past week, the Nepean football team finally conceded to change their name. So big thanks to my good friend Ian Campo and the work that he's put into this project. And finding that picture, that was, on the previous slide, that was the Blackhawks at the time, and you can see where these team names really come from. Here's a sign I made that I brought to the rally we held in June, and a youth that came showing that how much of this history is still reflected in the present. Miigwech.